It is Monday, the 25th day of November. Normally it'd be like Thanksgiving by now, but it's late this year, so I hear. So I am Mayor Chris Jensen coming to you from the city of Noblesville with another edition of Mental Health Monday here again for Monday, November 25th. I have a special guest. Well, I have two special guests. One is a frequent flyer with me, and that is Kristen Boyce, the owner of Pathways to Healing Counseling here in Noblesville. Good morning, Kristen Boyce.
Good morning, Mayor Jensen. I'm so happy to be here today.
We are happy that you are here, and we have a special guest with us, Lauren Guyon of the Shepherd Center here in Hamilton County, someone I've gotten to know quite a bit the last couple of years. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about the Shepherd Center, and then you're going to catch on what we're going to talk about today, specifically here on Mental Health Monday. So, Lauren, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. Though if I have to step away, I have sick kids in the other room, the joy of fall season. I am the executive director for Shepherd Center. I have been there now for over 9 years. We are the senior services organization for Hamilton County, located here in Noblesville. We provide a variety of programs and services that really center around helping people age in place as long as safely possible, which includes our social program, volunteer programs, as well as case management for both seniors and caregivers. But most importantly, we also have a counseling program where we offer free mental health counseling to seniors and caregivers, anybody 55 plus in Hamilton County. And I'm excited to be here today and talk to you about a very important issue, and that is seniors and mental health.
Well, and that's awesome. And Lauren hit it perfectly on the head. We have a big focus here in Noblesville about aging in place, making sure that folks can stay here in Noblesville long term. And part of that is protecting our mental health. Lauren and I have had many conversations around the baby boomer population and what that looks like. We're seeing a big influx of those, making sure that we have a supportive network in our community for them. So I'm really excited, certainly around the holidays, which Kristen, I'm sure you're going to touch on. That mental health strain is impactful to all of us, but the senior community is hit in particularly hard during this time. So I don't want to spoil any of the conversation. So with that, though, before we get into any conversation, Lauren, and I appreciate you prefacing the sick kids, we can all relate to that too. This is a very real show. So, but before we do that, we always do an exercise called square breathing that Kristen Boyce can lead us through.
Thank you so much. This is what I encourage anybody listening to do all the way throughout the day. So every hour, what we're doing is we're resetting our nervous system. We want to be in our window of tolerance. What does that mean? That means I can tolerate the stress, the triggers, the overwhelm, the information coming at me, and recenter myself so I can stay present in the current moment. So let's take a deep inhale through our nose. For 4, we're going to hold the breath for 4 and slowly release out our mouths for 8, like we're cooling a cookie or cooling soup. The key is getting that big belly breath, and the exhale slowly out helps reset the nervous system. So let's do it together, feet on the floor. Let's take a big deep inhale through our nose. Hold the breath, and then slowly release out our mouths. Let's do one more together. Big deep inhale through the belly, taking that belly in, and release. Just notice, reconnect to your body, notice your nervous system. And once you start this practice, and it's a practice, you will notice a big difference when you have a trigger. You'll go, okay, the first thing I want you to do is pause and breathe rather than react or say something you're going to regret or dysregulate and yell. So this is the way to come back and return to that prefrontal cortex, which can rationally think and give a response rather than a reaction.
Yeah, Kristen, actually, I thought of you yesterday. I was driving home from the grocery store, and there was just a lot going on the last couple of weeks in the city, some triggering things going on as I was kind of working through my mind. And so I was doing some square breathing in the car, driving down Gray Road. I did the 4 counts in plus the bonus breath. I think you and I went over that, and I think you said one of your daughters kind of prefers that, the bonus breath. So I was utilizing the bonus breath yesterday just as an extra kick as I was doing my square breathing driving on Gray Road. So
love it. So you take a another, for those
Yep.
that don't know, you take your 4 inhale, then you take another breath up. Okay.
Yep.
So then you release it out. So that's the one. Yeah. That's pretty popular for the teens. They like
Yep.
that one. So I always encourage you to find the one that works for you and the one that works for your kids. Your
Yep,
mom.
and I was also, I was mentally preparing in my head about showing you how much more capacity you have in there. If you can get that bonus breath, there's actually more in there. You're
Yes.
trying to get it all out. So I was mentally playing through that. So, all right, let's pivot. Before we go any further, if anybody, as you're listening today, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them for you on the fly, or we can get back to you at a later date too. Or if you just want to say hi, that's always welcome to do that as well. Appreciate those that tune in. We know there's a lot that watch live. There's a lot that listen over the next month or so, which is great. Those are all archived on the City of Noblesville Facebook page. So with that though, Kristen, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you to kind of get us teed up around this conversation around mental health in our senior community. And I'll stand back and probably interject at some point in time.
Yes. And I want to just preface this by saying, please share this with anybody that may be a family member, because we need them to know we care about them. Anybody, we care about everybody. And the senior community in particular can feel like they're lost, they're lonely, they're depressed, and no one sees them. So that's why this conversation is so important. So Lauren, what are you seeing in terms of emotional and mental health with the senior community at the Shepherd Center?
Yeah, I think we're seeing exactly what we know nationally about how seniors, as people age, are impacted from the different stages of aging. And what we're seeing is that majority of individuals, whether it be due to life situations, due to chronic illness, and or due to just purely like relationship issues, they are struggling, especially with depression, as well as some anxiety. And we see rates that range between 40 and 50% of the seniors that we serve do fall into the category of having depression or anxiety, which is pretty much the national average as well. So when we take a community like Noblesville, for example, we know that that's about 5,000 plus individuals in that aging community that we know are struggling with symptoms of depression and anxiety.
So how do you help them? So if, let's say someone's listening and they're like, I am so struggling with, my physical health has gone down. I may be less mobile. My family, maybe you've lost several family members. Maybe, your kids or grandkids are up and grown and you feel lonely. What are some things that this community can do, or someone struggling with anxiety and depression in the senior community?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing that we always encourage is not to be alone. Isolation is the largest epidemic impacting seniors in the aging community. We know the World Health Organization has told us that social isolation impacts your physical health the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, which sounds so scary, but it is something that we strongly encourage that you, in whatever way you want, seek social interaction. At Shepherd Center, we have a daily social program at different locations around the community. Fridays are Together Today Noblesville. They are open to anybody 55 plus. No registration required. You can simply show up. We'd love to see you. As well as if you're an individual that is homebound or maybe concerned about how you start that process of getting out of isolation, that is where we work more one-on-one with you in terms of whether we pair you with a volunteer phone pal or friendly visitor or someone from our team. It's important for us that we really seek to combat isolation. And I think that most people, at least most of our clients, isolation isn't something that they readily recognize that they're experiencing. Because as you referenced, it could be a situation where they've lost loved ones and family members, or maybe they've moved away naturally because of physical health issues. Maybe they are no longer able to get out of their house like they once were. And so it's something that happens naturally that a lot of people don't recognize. And so our goal is always to help them combat that in whatever way works best for them. Obviously, like I mentioned, we offer a lot of programs and services to do that, but there's a lot of easy things that you can do beyond even what we offer at Shepherd Center, checking in with a neighbor, participating in community events. If you're a spiritual person, participating in a faith community, really anything that you can do to try to improve your daily interactions with other people. So that's the first easy step that we strongly recommend. Beyond that, I think that, as I mentioned, symptoms of depression and anxiety untreated can become quite chronic as time goes on. And so that is one of the reasons why we launched our counseling program. So we offer free mental health counseling to anybody 55 plus or a caregiver. That can look like individual counseling, couples counseling, or even family counseling. We have licensed therapists who would offer, whether it be in-home therapy, over the phone or virtual, as well as the option to come to our office or a confidential office space. And we provide a variety of different types of counseling, whether that be grief, focus on depression and anxiety, relationship issues, as well as dealing with chronic illness is a common reason people come to us. Our services are 100% free, thanks to great partners. Our goal really is to help improve the quality of life for the people aging in our community. And so we see, by offering counseling services in the best way we possibly can in terms of reducing barriers and truly meeting people where they are, that we're able to overcome a lot of those obstacles that people may face in obtaining counseling services.
That's fantastic. Are there a certain number of sessions that someone can come to? Is there a limit to it?
So there is not a limit at this time. We don't limit. We base it off of a traditional treatment plan. So we go over your diagnosis and your treatment plan goals, and then we kind of plan out what the treatment will look like. The majority of people, though, are typically with us between 6 to 12 months, just because, as I mentioned, depression and anxiety symptoms, a lot of times they can span decades for some of the seniors that we serve. And so a traditional, for example, 6 sessions may not work well for someone who's trying to combat decades of symptoms. But for the most part, most of our clients come for about 6 to 12 months in our counseling program.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I was
No, you
just
are.
going to chime in. The Shepherd Center is incredible. It's an incredible resource that I don't think a lot of people even realize is right here. And that's part of what our journey today is too, is not just to talk about this issue, but talk about the amazing organizations. Kristen, can I talk a little bit about, signs or symptoms within somebody? If I'm a senior watching, what might someone look out for? And then I also want to get to, as a son of somebody who is a senior, what do we look for in others to help identify? And I didn't mean to jump down the road, but I know that's a huge, important part that I want to make sure we cover today.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that if you are a senior, I think asking yourself basic questions like, how happy do I feel day to day? Do I notice myself feeling sad or angry or anxious? It's that self-awareness in terms of kind of truly taking a moment to think about you and your day-to-day life and how you're feeling, as well as how you're interacting with other people. Because sometimes you may feel what some people refer to as fine. You may feel fine.
What does that stand for, Kristen Boyce?
Inside, not expressed.
Boom.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not
We hear it a lot. I think especially that's a generational thing, right? That a lot of people in an older generation were taught that, that they kind of had to just deal with their emotions on their own. And so a lot of times they may not have a good understanding of how they actually are feeling. And so we always tell people, okay, if those questions may be hard to answer, then you take a moment to think about, what are your interactions like with other people? If you're not having interactions with other people, that's a sign. If you're having interactions with other people and they're mostly negative, that's a sign. If you're having interactions with other people and you're walking away from that feeling stressed or overwhelmed or anxious in any way, that's also a sign. And so a lot of times that is how we initially start our conversations in our counseling program, because a lot of times that self-reflection and that self-awareness can be very difficult to just jump right into. And so we start with, well, how are you interacting with the other people around you? Or if you're not, then how can we address that isolation? When you're talking about a caregiver, so someone caring for an aging loved one, or just someone in your life that you maybe aren't fully caring for, but you do genuinely have concerns about, I think that the number one thing that you need to look out for is isolation. So beyond just general isolation that happens with aging, we also know that specifically in seniors, one of the number one symptoms of depression and anxiety comes out as isolation. It's easier to stay at home, to stay by themselves, than maybe to go out and deal with either the stress and anxiety of interacting with other people, and or maybe the negative emotions that come up from that, as well as maybe a lack of motivation to participate in day-to-day life. So one of the other things we commonly hear from caregivers is, especially, my spouse or my mom or dad, they used to like doing XYZ and they don't do those things anymore. That's a great sign that they could potentially be struggling with something emotionally or mentally, and that they do need a little bit of help. And, that's definitely our goal, to come alongside caregivers of aging loved ones and really work with them as a unit, which is why we provide family therapy as well as couples counseling, because caregiving is really challenging, especially if you're a spouse caring for someone, or if you're a sandwich generation child caring for an aging loved one. Those are really difficult relationships to navigate. And we find having that neutral outside voice help you both understand each other better, as well as discuss a game plan for how to improve that quality of life and decrease symptoms. It works better when you have that neutral person a lot of times. And so that's definitely our goal, to serve as that role. But I would say if you notice any of those things, that would definitely be a good warning sign that, and we always like to say, the sooner the better. The sooner you ask for help, the better. I mean, I think that's just generally across the board, but especially for our senior population, the more proactive people can be, usually leads to less issues down the road. Our goal is to help people maintain their independence. And so a key element of that is taking care of your mental health, just like you would your physical health, because we find that a lot of times your mental health and your cognitive ability or decline can ultimately impact a person's ability to be independent, just like a physical health decline. And so these things all work together. So it's important from my lens that if you do notice that anything about yourself and or a loved one, that you reach out and ask for help, for sure.
Can you talk about when people feel, I know especially in the senior community, but this can be a common feeling, I don't want to be a burden. To be a burden to others. I don't want to ask for help because I don't want to burden other people or my family members or my kids. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It comes from such a genuine place of care and concern, right? That you see the people around you and you have such care and concern and affection for them that you don't want to negatively impact their quality of life, which is 100% understandable. And that's 100% why we exist. The goal is that Shepherd Center is a partner with you, that all of the clients that we serve and the families that we serve and the caregivers that we serve, we're not coming into your life to take over. We're coming in to help you and help eliminate that burden that you may feel like you're putting on other people. That is what we're here for. That's our mission. Our goal is to kind of fill the gap for people and to truly step in and really help support them in their aging. And a lot of times, much like you referenced, Mayor Jensen, people don't know what resources are available to them. A great example recently, a couple came into our counseling program. They were a referral from the Noble Act program. We were really grateful to meet with them because we found out that they actually qualify for a significant amount of VA benefits and home health to really eliminate some of the caregiver stress that the wife was feeling for the husband, as well as hopefully prevent any future hospitalizations for the husband. And then our counseling program was able to come in and really help them talk through some caregiving issues and relationship things to improve their quality of life. They didn't know that any of that was available to them. And so I think that's the other benefit of having those neutral outside voices come in, is a lot of times it's as simple as getting you connected with the resources that you are outside of those people that you love, that really can help reduce that burden feeling, so that it feels like you are still being independent because you're relying on these resources that are available to you to help improve that quality of life and hopefully improve the relationships with those people that you love, because you're all feeling less stressed and overwhelmed in that process.
Yes.
Can I chime in quickly? Because I think one of the things that really opened my eyes, Kristen, during COVID was kind of a generational gap around the conversation around mental health. I can't tell you how many people, particularly baby boomers, would text me and almost like a confessional, like, oh, I watched your mental health show. Like, I won't tell anybody, I promise, and because they, and I remember an individual who's 75 texted me and said, we were not raised to talk about our emotions and our mental health. So can you talk a little bit about kind of just the stigma amongst that generation and kind of what you're seeing in the overall, the world right now around this conversation?
Yeah, I definitely can. And Kristen, feel free to chime in because you're in this world too. But I would say one of the coolest things that we've seen is in our social program, we're increasing the interactions that our seniors are having with high school students. So high school students are coming regularly to volunteer at our daily social program. That has done wonders to combat the stigma, because I do think that the younger generations are very open and honest about their feelings, that's just a common occurrence for them. And I think that when seniors interact with younger generations, that type of openness is really something that has helped combat the stigma a lot, because I think they're seeing that it is okay socially, and it's okay in these safe spaces to open up and talk about how you're feeling. I think that has done wonders to combat stigma, and that's something I think that anybody can do, right? That if you're of the younger generation, there are people in your life that would benefit from those types of conversations, whether it be a family members, neighbors, or other people that you interact with regularly. As well as, I think from the senior perspective, when you are having conversations and relationships with people in the younger generation, you have more of an open mind to what they may be experiencing, which I think is phenomenal. I think the other thing that combats stigma is this, right? We just talk about it, and we talk about what's going on, and we talk about the key things that people are experiencing, so that you don't feel alone, which is, I think, something that they don't have a lot of opportunities to experience. And so we obviously want to provide more and more of those. But I think in the communities or groups that you're involved in, anytime you can bring up conversations like this around mental health and just have open dialogue, it really does combat the stigma and makes people feel like you're not alone, that everybody has experiences with different types of feelings and mental health issues, and you're not alone in them.
Yeah, and we'll just go ahead and acknowledge that Kristen Boyce literally dropped off somewhere, but we're gonna find her. We're gonna get her back here in just a minute and keep on rolling. But there she is.
There she is.
I said we were just talking about things that happened, like when Kristen Boyce just pieced out of the live stream for a few minutes.
I had to get the hotspot. I was like, something happened to our Wi-Fi.
She's back in business. So we were just talking about just again erasing that stigma, and I think Lauren, you did a good job. I think we hear that, there's been a lot of campaigns around kicking the stigma, and that's what we've really been focused on the last couple of years. I think we view that as future generations, and I think we need to view that differently, of like even as generations like mine get more comfortable around the mental health space, we owe it to even generations before us to talk about it, to help bring them into the conversation.
100%.
100%.
Yes, I agree. Here's the other piece that I'm seeing is because we have a lot in this, we have a lot of clients in this bucket. They think they were taught that there's something really wrong with you. If you go into, you must be crazy. Like you must be really dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
Something must really be wrong with you. And that prevents them from coming sometimes. So one of the things is going, you know what? This is so I feel better and a better version of me. I think one of the last questions I think is really important is how do you talk to a family member that doesn't want, they're like, I'm good, but you know they're not. So I think this is important. How do you start the conversation with somebody that's kind of resistant to maybe going to therapy or getting resource help from Shepherd or
Yeah, absolutely. That's a wonderful question. I should also clarify, I'm a therapist by background, so this is a very therapist answer.
We're getting double duty today. This is so great.
But you start by talking about yourself, right? I think it's easy to say you need this, something's wrong with you. But if you start with I have struggled with this before. I have felt this way before. I have gotten help before. I've gone to a counselor. I want you to feel better. I want you to feel empowered, that you don't have to feel like this every day. And if you start with I statements, it goes a long way, and especially with the older generation, because they don't feel judged. They feel respected, that they still have the ability to make their own choices, but you're coming from a place of care and concern that you also, and that you can relate to potentially how they're currently feeling. And so I find that when you start with I instead of you get a long way in those conversations.
I agree. I feel sad. I feel afraid. I feel scared. And then asking, would you be, what are your fears around going, or what are your concerns? I think asking them and processing it with them can be helpful if they're willing to go there.
100%. And I think that a lot of times the barriers for seniors are very real, right? Transportation or health issues or scheduling or insurance or the financial aspect. And I hope everyone knows that's why we're here. We're here to completely eliminate all of those barriers and or excuses potentially that people may use as to the reasons why they cannot participate. Our goal is to meet the clients exactly where they're at. We're also a great stepping stone, and commonly, we partner with IU Health, Aspire, other private practitioners like Kristen, where we may be the stepping stone to help them get to someone else as well, another mental health provider that maybe will better serve them long term, depending on what they have going on. But we're always a great place to start because we really do try to eliminate all of those barriers. So keep us in mind if those excuses come up, that there's a place out there that can help overcome those.
I love this so much. And it's never too late. This is the other thing. People come in and go, I'm too old for this. I'm like, never is that the case. And I want you to know, no matter how old you are, age is all relative. You matter. And you can always grow and evolve and heal. It's never too late to find the healing or the resources or the support. You are important.
Yeah. Well, that's why I want to end on saying, one of the things that we've learned a lot within city government the last couple of years is that we are so fortunate in Hamilton County to have an aging population that is retiring. Some of them earlier, even during COVID, retired early and are living longer. Are living 20 to 30 more years. Longer than the generations before them. So our goal in Noblesville and around the world is to have those resources to live healthy, productive lives. And that's where the Shepherd Center comes in essentially. So I know we got to wrap up here, but I know shepherdcenterofhamiltoncounty.org is where folks can go to learn more about the Shepherd Center. Yes. I'll also say, if you love coffee and pastries, they're located right next door to Debbie's Daughters, right on Connor Street. So if you need an excuse to go go be adjacent to the Shepherd Center, go go grab a cup of coffee at Debbie's Daughters, and then maybe walk on over and find Lauren
Absolutely.
and her wonderful team.
Although I might be there at Debbie's
you might
Daughters.
be there
so
with sick kids,
basically every
but
day.
somebody will probably be there. You can at least know where it's located, right there on Conner Street. Kristen Boyce, if somebody's in a crisis situation right now, or kind of at a loss, where do they go?
988 call text 24/7. There's mental health clinicians on the other end responding to those texts and those phone calls. It's available all the time. It is the new 911 for mental and emotional wellness. 988 is the number.
Love it. Lauren Guyon, you are a blessing to this community. Thank you for joining us today.
you
Kristen Boyce,
so
you are too. I am thankful this holiday season for both of you. So thank you everyone
so
for
much.
tuning in. And we'll be back next month with another edition of the Mental Health Monday. But in the meantime, stay safe and thanks again.
Thank you.